The King of Staten Island was directed by Judd Apatow and stars Pete Davidson and is partially based on Pete Davidson's life. And we follow the character named Scott as he smokes pot, gets tattoos, gives tattoos to his friends, and tries to really figure out who he is and what he wants to do with his life, especially when his mom begins to date a firefighter, which brings up a lot of traumatic memories for him since his father was a firefighter who died during, fighting a fire. So it's dealing with all of those problems in his life, mental issues, other things that he's trying to figure out. And this is pretty good. Mixed bag, but pretty good. I think the first thing to talk about really is about Judd Apatow's films. Most of his comedies have been pretty much straightforward comedies, but then there's some Funny People or Trainwreck that start to delve more into dramatic territory. Funny People is kind of like a riff on Adam Sandler's life, but goes in much more dramatic territory in certain elements. But the problem is that in that the tone wasn't always consistent as to whether it wanted to be a comedy or whether it wanted to be a drama or try to be a dramedy, and it didn't really know what it wanted to do. And Trainwreck, it worked better because it knew more of what it wanted to be, but there were still those times where the tone was just inconsistent. Like there'd be dramatic moments, but then they would be undercut by humorous lines and stuff like that. And here I think it leans more towards the Trainwreck side of that, where it does have a good balance between comedy and drama. But the problem is that I feel like the drama, there's not enough of it, which is kind of a shame because there's a lot there and a lot that's hinted at to be dramatic, but it's never really explored, which is weird because this movie's almost 2.5 hours long. So it's kind of weird they didn't spend more time exploring those dramatic elements, which is kind of the only really big problem. But to some, at least to me, I know it is, but to some, it's probably not going to care. Pete Davidson, fantastic performance in this. Just like with Big Time Adolescence, he knows exactly who he is, especially because this is based on his life. But he plays it really well, especially in some of the scenes where it does hit those more dramatic beats. He does a fantastic job. And I really want to see him do more. I want to see him lead more films. I want to see him start doing some dramas and just start expanding his horizons because he's really great in this. He also co-wrote the movie and it's pretty damn funny a lot of the time. So yeah, really, really great performance from him as well from everyone else. Marissa Tomei, Bill Burr, they're all fantastic. Everyone in this film, supporting cast, all fantastic. Not a bad performance in here. Going back to the tone of the film, when it comes to the story, there are times where it can feel a bit disjointed and it's just kind of going around from place to place, just doing random stuff. There's some side plots with his friends that by the end doesn't really go anywhere. So it just kind of feels like that after a certain point you can just cut them out and then you wouldn't be missing anything. But then it goes to certain places with them that's just do we need to go to these certain places? Because it doesn't add really anything, because about halfway, 3/4 of the way through, they're completely gone for the movie. It's just why were they there for so much? It's kind of weird. And then going back to the mixed bag of dramatic elements being mixed in with the comedy, there's times when it starts hinting at Pete Davidson's mental depression and how severe it can be, but it never really explores that. There's only a couple of times when he talks about it. There's a moment in the beginning when he's driving and he completely shuts his eyes he's trying to commit suicide, but it doesn't explore it, which is strange because I feel that it would be a really great discussion about it, especially because Pete's been through all of that his entire life. So, and he could tie that into his father's death and his mom dating a firefighter. So there was a ton of room to really explore it, but it just kind of felt that it was too scared to explore it, which is a big bummer because what's there, the little bits of it are really good and really interesting, but again, the film just doesn't explore it, which is really disappointing, at least for me. Again, some people, they might not just care, they might just find the film hilarious and it doesn't matter to them. But to me, if you're going to go for those dramatic parts, then go for it. Don't be afraid to reach for the dramatic sides. There's always a good balance between comedy and drama in dramedies. Edge of 17 is a fantastic example of this. That film is both hilarious and heartbreaking, and it balances the comedy and drama really well. Here, it had the potential to, but it just didn't. And I feel that Apatow is a good enough director that he can do this. I just feel that he's at times just too afraid to really reach for those moments, to really go for the drama. It's a bummer, at least for me. This film is really funny. Pete Davidson and Bill Burr are definitely highlights of the film. They are both hilarious. There's so many great back and forth one-liners between the two of them, and a lot of hilarious scenes that happen in this. It's really funny. Pete Davidson, Judd Apatow, they're really great writers. They still know how to write comedy really well. So Pete Davidson writes a movie again. I'm excited to see it. I think while most of the film is very like straightforward, you can pretty much see where it's going to go. It's not really trying to hide like the film that it's trying to be in the story that it's trying to tell, which can be a bit disappointing. But like it does a good job telling it. Like it's funny enough and it stands out on its own to really like justify like the story that it's telling, because it's like you can tell like it's like mom's dating a new guy, he's gonna act out, blah blah blah, they'll start bonding, blah 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 blah, all that kind of stuff. Like we've seen this kind of stuff before, but again, it's because of the performances and direction from Apatow that it does really sell it. It does sell it like with fresh comedy that like can be like, all right, I'll take it, I like it. But again, like there's parts that's just like, does this really need to be here? Like, does this really need to be almost 2.5 hours long? That's the case with most Apatow comedies. Like, they're mostly over 2 hours. Funny People is really long, and that film just feels like it's 2 movies. And here's just like, I feel like there's a lot that could have been cut out. Stuff that could have been shortened, and it's just like, I feel like that some parts could have also been extended. It's a lot of different things in this film. But again, if you're going in for the comedy, you're going to have a good time. You're going to have a really good laugh. I think overall, The King of Staten Island is a good movie, but I feel like that with its almost 2.5 hour runtime, its tonal inconsistencies here and there, and sometimes just not knowing exactly what it wants to tell, that it can be a bit disjointed, but overall, still a really funny and a really good time. Pete Davidson does a fantastic job in this film. He's a great lead actor. I want to see him do more. I can't wait to see what Apatow's next film is going to be, and I do think, though, that renting this for $20 for only, having it for 2 days is definitely way overpriced, and I really hate that Universal was making studios do that, or at least themselves do that. I'm going to give The King of Staten Island a 7 out of 10. It's a fun time. I would say for this, wait until, you can buy it, either physically or digitally, but don't rent it for $20. I don't think any of the films, honestly, are worth renting for $20, to be honest. At least that's my opinion. But I mean, if you want to, go ahead. You'll have a fun time. So that was my review of The King of Staten Island. If you've seen it, let me know what you thought of it down in the comments below. What other Apatow comedies do you really like? Do you like Pete Davidson? If you saw Big Time Adolescence, let me know what you thought of that. And yeah, I will see you all next time.